Jonathan, can you believe that we're here on the first ever Catch Fire Live together?
Amazing, man. I'm glad to be here, buddy.
You're the first
Thank you so
guest
much for
on the
having me.
first guest on the first live stream. So virtual cheers.
My pleasure. I'm completely honored.
Virtual
Cheers.
cheers. Okay. So you're in Atlanta. We're in
I'm
St.
here in
Louis.
Atlanta. Yep. It is cool here in the evenings in the 40s, but in the daytime it's between 60 and 70, which is wonderful.
Yeah. And I know that you all like to explore. Have you explored anything fun recently?
We sure have. Yeah, we 2 or 3 weekends ago, I went to Lake Jocassee, which is 2 hours from here, and got an 8 mile kayak to a waterfall, and then got to go explore up, kind of crawl up the rocks and crevices up this waterfall. And then the next day did a 15-mile hike up and then back down 4,500 vertical feet. Who knew that there were such steep, it was so steep here in the Southeast. I had no idea before I moved here, but the topography is great. And so, yes, we've been exploring quite a bit.
And then I know you had an unfortunate incident a few years ago with trail running. Have you
I
kind of
did,
forsaken
yeah.
that?
I did. It's funny. I was running down Mount Katahdin in Maine a couple of years ago. I should say I hiked down most of it. It's a 5 mile hike up and back, 5 miles up, 5 miles back, and on the last mile on the way down, it flattens out a bit. It's not as mountainous, and I decided to be a reckless daredevil, maybe a little bit too big for my britches, as my mama might say, and ran and broke my foot.
Not
Took
cool.
quite a tumble,
But
broke my foot.
yeah. I think you let me pump up your boot one time, like
You did.
kind of like the Reebok shoes back in the day. So
Yeah, you did. That's exactly right.
well, we're just trying to give people, a preview on this show of all the different types of guests we have, but also it's the holidays and we need to make some new memories because 2020 has been a dumpster fire. So so this, little bit of fun, little bit of business. That's what Catch Fire Friendsgiving is.
That's great, man.
Can I show a picture of the last time our families were together?
I sure hope you do. Yeah.
Okay. So this was not all of my kids, but this was the 6 of us in Atlanta. Not everyone is having a good time, but
That's right. That's right. So that's your little Theo on with you guys, and our little Theo with us, and my wife Liz. And as you can see, our little Theo is very unhappy to be there. But most of the time, the truth is that most of the time he's actually a pretty happy little camper. Here's a much better picture of him.
That is a happy camper picture.
Liz. Yeah, he's a pretty happy little camper. He's just started counting to 10. And he just put his shoe on today by himself, one shoe. And so we had a big celebration about putting one shoe on. And maybe that is the lesson of 2020 for all of us, right? That is worth celebrating when you get a shoe on. Hell, it's worth celebrating when you wear pants with buttons.
Buttons.
That may be the lesson of 2020.
I did, make sure to dress in presentable clothing today. This is a little bit, I don't know, maybe for some people it would be a little bit dressed down, but for me it was my pre-COVID normal. So
there you go, man.
Well, we met each other several years ago. It's a little dreary today in St. Louis. So on another dreary morning, I don't know, maybe about 10 years ago, we met each other at a coffee shop in St. Louis. And that was during what I call your bow tie period. Did you get rid of all the bow ties or just most of them?
I have one here. I work in my cloffice, as you know. We don't have a lot of office space here in Atlanta, and so I have what you see behind me is actually my master closet that I have halfway converted into an office. But I still have my ties handy, so never fear. If the need called, yes, I could throw this bow tie on.
If you had to with haste, okay. Yeah. So yeah,
I believe I was also wearing full-on seersucker that day.
I wouldn't put it past you. Yeah.
In fact, I'm sure I was.
Because yeah, you get an email from somebody, you're like, because you I think knew of me through a website, and then we met, and I was like, I mean, we dress fairly differently, and I tend not to dress to impress. You tend to dress to impress, and so I was like, oh, okay, yeah, and anyway, but that has nothing to do with the rest of our friendship. But it's a funny memory. So I wanted to, if you could tell us, as a, I mean, let me say this first of all. I was thinking about this. I feel like part of our friendship was built on a common why. I think we have some common whys and some common things that we really are passionate about. But I believe that you have helped me become more, like a better communicator, better at communicating that. And I just wondered if you could kind of talk about how you think about communicating your why, and how you have worked on that over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. So my why isn't my professional why. I'll start with my professional why, and maybe if we have time, we'll get to my personal why. But my professional why is, I fundamentally believe that good leaders have the potential to change the world. And so I've spent my entire career empowering and enabling leaders to drive the change of their lifetime. And I guess I mean, you want me to kind of unpack how I got there, Simon? Or sort of how, like, how I arrived at that, or why I chose that? What can I unpack first?
Well, since we don't have a full, normally on this show we go at 30 minutes,
Yeah.
an hour. So,
Right,
but
I'll
let's
be
just zoom
respectful.
in just to give everybody a teaser. That last part really stuck out to me. The change of their lifetime. Talk about that part.
Yeah. So I have always I like to run toward the I like to run the best way I can put it is I like to run to the fire, right? I like to run to the thing that needs attention, or the thing that is where there's big change happening, right? And I always have since I was a little kid. And so I like to find in my professional career, like to find people who are doing really big things, and then run to them and be part of that team. And that's what lights me up, and always has. So I remember 5 or 6 years ago, there was some dumpster fire at work, and I ran toward it and tried to be a part of the solution. Right. I remember afterwards, somebody asked me, like, Jonathan, why did you do that? Why did you raise your hand to go to that? And it hadn't even occurred to me, A, that I'd raised my hand, or B, that it was an option. And that's sort of what I shared. It was like, this is just who I am. It's just part of what I do. I like to be in the thick of things. And I think that's probably the best way to put it. I don't want to at all make it sound like I'm sort of a hero, because I'm not. But I just like to be in the thick of things. And that's what lights me up. And
Okay.
and so that leader piece, the change of their lifetimes, if a leader is in the thick of things and they're driving something really big, I want to be right there next to them.
Yeah, that's really cool. And then a hot take. I don't know if you'd be willing to do a hot take, but we both
I'm
have
not
the
even sure I'm
privilege.
cool enough to know what that means, Simon.
Oh, like I kind of throw out a scenario and you kind of give us a little bit of a on the spot riff.
I can do my best. It may not be the prettiest riff you've ever heard, but I'll do my best.
Well, no, that's part of the hot take. Is like you just kind of like. Anyway, sorry,
Let's roll with it.
Yeah, you roll with it. We both have the privilege of being parents, and we've been able to work with kiddos in the foster adopt system. Totally. And then you have had many challenges in your career, but you've also been able to work at the White House. What is harder, being a foster adopt parent or working at the White House?
I want to flip that question a little bit, if I can, first. I guess if that's what hot takes are about. So the way I'm going to flip that question is, what's more important? And far and away, the more important job, and this is a shout out to you and to all the foster dads and all the foster moms out there, White House, Schmight House, far and away the more important job is being a foster dad and giving a damn and making a difference in the life of the kid.
And I can say, I mean, my wife and I, our family, all of our kids, I mean, we would not be where we are at. We would not be breathing and thriving without you all. And I mean, you all have been some of our biggest supporters, our biggest cheerleaders. So we really appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, man. Absolutely. I feel the same way. And foster dadding is the hardest thing I've ever done. To go back and answer that question of yours. Working at the White House certainly had its challenges, as anybody who works there would attest. But foster dadding, yeah, I tip my hat to you and to everybody who's a foster dad or a foster mom.
And I think part of the reason I asked that question too is just to try to give people, a feel for the folks we have on the show and all of the different aspects of their life. Like, one of the things we're trying to blow up is this idea that there's kind of these stereotypes that you either need to, hang your hat on or not, or the light switch is either on or off. And that there's these people just with really robust experiences, but also really robust contributions. And so I just am really excited to continue to help invite people to this conversation and bring people to get to know you all, because this is super fun.
Well, it's interesting that you say that. If I can, I know we're my segment here is coming to a close, but can I share a final story as we wrap up, or am I getting the
do it?
Here's a final story. So on the last day of my time at the White House, I went to the Oval Office to say goodbye to the president. He's gracious enough. It was President George W. Bush, and he was gracious enough to invite all of his outgoing staff to say goodbye to him in the Oval Office. And we got to invite our families, a few members of our family. So I'm there with my mom and my dad and a brother and a sister. And my dad, by way of background, had worked almost all of his career in the foster and adoption community, in that world, helping lead an agency that specifically worked with kiddos all over the world who needed families, permanent families. So we're in the Oval Office, and my parting question to the president is, Mr. President, and this is exactly what I said, Mr. President, I'm a young pup leaving the White House. What should I do with the rest of my life? Right? And I was kind of hoping, to your point, Simon, about professional and personal, I was kind of hoping that he would sort of slap me on the back and say, hey, I have a good friend at Goldman Sachs. Why don't you call them? Or, hey, I happen to know the number of the admissions office at Harvard Business School. Why don't you give them a shout, and I'll let them know you're calling, right? That was sort of what I was hoping.
Yeah.
Something like that. And instead, what he did was he sort of like split the schism between my personal and professional lives and said, Jonathan, go be on the front lines of compassion. Go and seek and do. And then he looked at my dad and said, go follow your dad's footsteps. And my dad didn't have a huge illustrious career. He wasn't, in terms of sort of the things that the world would look at, right? Like being CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company. He led an organization that helped thousands of kiddos get personal, get permanent relationships with families. And he said, go do what your dad did. And those words, oh my gosh, have echoed in my head and in my heart for the rest of my life. Go be on the front lines of compassion. And he sort of, again, kind of challenged me to say, like, to really rethink what's more important, Jonathan, your professional pursuits or the way that you live as a man, as a human. And and if this side of your life isn't in balance with this side, the professional and the personal, you're out of balance, Jonathan. So go beyond those front lines of compassion. I'll stop there.
That's a really good story.